You may be seated. Psalm 15, a song of David. Lord, who may sojourn in your tent? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? One who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks the truth from the heart, who has no slander on the tongue, nor has done any harm to a fellow, nor casts disgrace towards a neighbor, in whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of the Lord, who swears truthfully, even to personal hurt, and never retracts, who does not lend money on interest, does not take a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. Psalm 23, translation I have is just slightly different from what's up there, but we all know the psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul and guides me in righteous paths for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Your scepter and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overfloweth. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. In the traditional memorial service for a woman, there's the famous passage from Proverbs, Eshes Chayil, the gallant woman. Now, 1 week ago, for those who don't know, I'm Bobbi's son-in-law, so I'll speak about it in a minute, but 1 week ago, we recited this on Friday night. It's the practice in many traditional homes right before the Sabbath meal to recite this. We were actually not able to make it through. I don't even think we were able to make it through a third of it. It just was too emotional because we said at the beginning it was going to be in honor of Bobbi. So what we're going to do now, we have among the grandchildren, we're going to read, dividing it in English, each grandchild, and then we're going to, all of the grandchildren are going to come up and we're going to sing that song to Bobbi now, Grandma Bobbi, that which we were not able to finish a little over a week ago. So first, Ilana, the first 4 verses. In many ways, of course, if you think about the words, although this is written thousands of years ago, if you maybe put it up to a little more modern setting, they personify her, as many of you know, almost perfectly. Ilana, the first 4 verses.
A gallant woman who can find, far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly.
Jacob. 4.
She is like a merchant fleet, bringing her sustenance from afar. She arises while it is yet night, and gives provision to her household and direction to her maidens. She envisions a field and acquires it. From the fruit of her handiwork she plants a vineyard. With vigor she girds her loins and strengthens her arms.
Julia.
She discerns that her enterprise is good. Her lamp does not go out by night. Her hands she stretches out to the distaff, and her palms support the spindle. She spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. She fears not snow for her household, for her entire household is clothed with scarlet wool.
Elisa.
Fine covers she made herself, linen and purple wool are her clothing. Prominent in the gates is her husband as he sits with the elders of the land. She makes a cloak and sells it, and deals a belt to the peddler. Strength and splendor are her raiment. She cheerfully awaits the last day.
Yeah. You can stay here because we're singing it.
This one?
Yeah.
Her mouth is opened with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her, her husband, and he lauds her. Many daughters have accomplished well, but usurpers.
Stay up here. Grace is false and beauty is vain, a woman in awe of God, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her own hand, and let her indeed praise her in the gathering places. So among the grandchildren, whoever wants to come up, we're going to sing it to Grandma. Here, you can share it. Josh, you want to be the leader of it? Josiah, your voice is the best. Chayom yimsa v'rachok mipeninim echra batach balev bala v'shala lo yachzar gamal zutov elora kol yemecha ya'darshat sefer fishtim v'tas b'chevetz kabaha Haisa kaniyos ocher merchak tavi lachma v'takom be'od laila v'titeter v'vesa v'choker nase zama sache b'preu m'pricha b'natakarem chagra v'oz maseha v'tam mitzroseha tamakito sachra lo yichbe v'laila nere dila shilcha l'kishor v'chapet tamfaleh kava parsalyani v'yadeh shilcha evrom sir v'vesa mishale v'vesa l'vushanim marvadi masala sheish ragman l'vusha noda basharim lava v'shiv tolim ziknei aretz savina savatim kor v'chagor nas naknani oz hadar l'vusha v'tisak l'yom acharo Pasa b'chachma v'saras chesed al leshon Sofia lichos beitza v'lechem azuzot hel Kamalonel yeshua ba'ala v'ayechal l'rabot Zbaros ha'suchayim v'yatavi zakulana Sheker achein v'hevel fi isha yiras Adonai hiti tzavelte In one of the books of the Bible, Ecclesiastes, it has a very challenging passage. It says, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death is better than the day of birth. And it's challenging. What do you mean the day of death is better than the day of birth? We rejoice at birth and we mourn at the day of death. But the way these passages work is you have to, the first and the second parts go together. So we can all understand that a good name is better than precious ointment. And if you agree with that, you agree with the next part. And it all relates to the word, as the commentaries explain, name. What does name mean in the context of the ancient civilization? We think of a name as a reputation. And it includes that as well, but it means more than that. A name is the sum total of one's existence, everything you've accomplished, all that you've done throughout your life. That's the name. And we appreciate that, we can understand. What does it mean the day of death is better? In what sense is it better? It's better only in the sense that we can now look and see the name. What's been accomplished? What's been achieved through all those years? And we could see someone who's born doesn't yet have the name. So although the day of death is a terrible day, we can look at this and say that what has been achieved. And with Bobbi, of course, we all know what she achieved. In fact, it's amazing, her name. Friends from college, who she's still very close with. Friends from elementary school, very unusual. Friends who've been with her her entire life. Everyone loved her. There's a great rabbi in Prague. His name was Ezekiel Lando. I take groups there to the summer, and he had a wife also. I think it was 65 years. And at the eulogy, and we have a transcript of it, he announces, much like people would do at a wedding, and say, if anyone has an objection, say it now. He says to the people, has anyone ever fought with my wife? If you have, let me know. And he could say that because he knew it never happened. That his wife was known as kind and friends with everyone. And I could say the same thing about Bobbi. Everyone knows if she was insulted, if there was an issue, she let it fall off her shoulders. Didn't make a scene. The Talmud speaks about those who take an insult and don't give it back. That was her righteousness. Always there to do a kindness for everyone. So everyone only has good things about her. And I can say from the inside, I was fortunate to marry Lauren and be part of the family for these last 23 years. And it's not like sometimes on the outside, but the inside's different. It's the same thing inside or outside, no matter who she's dealing with. You know, the important person or the people who we call not so important. It was the same respect, and I feel it is a privilege and a great honor for me that I was able to be part of that family, and I thank her very much, obviously, and Alex for raising Lauren in such a way that we were made right for each other. And I mentioned Alex. I have to say something here as well. We'll hear more, obviously, about Bobbi, Zichrona Livracha, in a few minutes from the other speakers, but I just want to make sure that Alex is not forgotten. If you were in synagogue yesterday, you read a very interesting verse. If you recall the story of Jacob, he comes and he wants to marry Rachel, but he has to work for her. That's Laban's, fortunately they didn't make me work for Lauren, but 7 years he has to work for her. And you know what it says on the verse? He worked 7 years, but because of his love for her, it was just a few days. And we all know that feeling, right? You first meet someone, maybe the first year or so of your marriage, she asks you to drive, 11 o'clock at night, go to the supermarket, get something, you want to do it. You love to do it. Come back 10, 15 years later, maybe not so anxious to do it. But I cannot say, and again, seeing it from the inside, Alex is like what we saw with Jacob. 60 years married, 64 years, he says, because that's how long they've been together. The way he took care of her in all these little matters. And we all know she was a big feminist, but certain things he didn't care. He says, I'm going to do this. And he did it. Always did it. And I can tell you at the last months, we have an expression, chesed shalemes, doing things for people that you can't get back. If you had, it's beyond belief what I saw and what Lauren saw the last few months, every single day in the hospital, taking care of her, never giving up. You're in the hospital there, the nurses are often very good, but they're not your first concern. They have other patients. Being an advocate, going beyond the call of duty. So this was literally service for her. 64 years from the first time they met until literally the last day. And it's something, you don't see this very often. And I know, he thinks about it now, 64 years, but it went like that in an instant. Because when you love someone, just like Jacob, 7 years, felt like a few days, 64 years, and of course, he wanted more time. And that's all he wanted. He was doing this yeoman service because he just wanted a little more time, another day, another week, another smile. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. But that's chesed shalemes, doing for the others without any desire to get anything in return, just because you love them. We're now going to hear from a few of the grandparents, and we'll hear from Lauren, grandchildren, I'm sorry. And so speaking about the grandparents who are so important for all these grandchildren's lives, that I'm going to call first upon Joshua Shapiro, Lauren and my son, who's going to speak a bit.
My name is Josh Shapiro. I'm Bobbi Sobel's grandson. The year is 2012, and it is a sunny June morning in Oceanside, New York. The kitchen on 4099 Green Tree Drive was always occupied early in the morning, with Grandpa filling the room with the aroma of his coffee. But today was even more lively than usual. After all, it was that time of year. The wonderful grandchildren of Alex and Bobbi Sobel had rendezvoused in Long Island once again to see Broadway musicals, New York City tourist spots, and kosher restaurants with service that Grandpa found detestable and bordering on personally insulting. Grandpa, my brother Jacob, and I had already executed our covert mission of the morning, devouring our skinny cow mint chocolate chip ice cream sandwiches for breakfast. However, we did not erase the evidence in time. Right about then, Grandma would come down, catching my brother and me red-handed, chocolate stuck to our face and our hands. The proof was in the pudding. But Grandma, as she always did, would merely smile, crack a joke, and remind my brother why he's called Mr. Messy. Once the other cousins were up and ready to go, our day trip soon commenced. We drove over to the Oceanside train station for the beginning of what was to be a jam-packed, exhilarating, and stressful day. Whether it be the Statue of Liberty, the creepy wax museum, the Mets games, or subway rides, any member of the exclusive Sobel family travel tour knew that this trip functioned pretty much the same way every time. Surely we had tons of fun seeing all different types of sights that even the average New Yorker doesn't go to. But pulling together such a trip with 5 little kids wandering all around New York City is by no means an easy feat. Grandpa, of course, would enter into his tour guide mode with his conspicuously bright orange shirt, running the tightest of ships as he does. And understandably, at times, most times, the atmosphere was a little tense. We would occasionally snap at each other, roll our eyes at one another. But while this might have been true for everybody else in the family, everybody else in the group, Grandma never ever lost her cool. When Grandpa or the grandchildren were frustrated at this thing or this person, Grandma always knew how to respond calmly, replying with a firm yet collected response. Now, Grandma's composure went far beyond the Sobel family expeditions. When thinking about her, I cannot help but feel reminded of the aphorism of the rabbis in Ethics of the Father, Pirkei Avot, imploring us to greet every person with a sever panim yafot, a pleasant countenance. Grandma never got angry, raised her voice, or seemed aggravated. In fact, she was extremely patient when speaking to her children, grandchildren, and husband, and was always there to give you a smile when you most needed it. But her overall pleasantness and patience were not isolated traits. Rather, they both united under what was the true essence of Grandma's character, acting like a true lady. She always spoke politely, knew the names of all the different workers at the club, and dressed and acted with elegance. Knowing how important being a lady or gentleman was to her, Grandma made it her duty to instill this in her children and grandchildren. Table manners, for instance, were of the utmost importance. So many times I have been with friends who reach over you while you are eating, cut the challah incorrectly, or use their knives like it's a weapon, and all I could do is sit there and wonder, didn't Grandma teach you some manners? Not only this, but Grandma also made sure I dressed well. She loved shopping with me at her favorite stores, Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's, helping me pick out the right dress shirt along the way. But even more than an example of fine character, Grandma was my biggest fan. Whether it be through watching my a cappella performances or telling me how handsome I looked in a picture, she was always there to make me feel special. Oh, Grandma, if only the other girls were as nice as you. Grandma also had a lot of friends who loved her very dearly, many of whom are here today. It is no accident that she was adored by so many people. After all, she loved so many people herself. This love was true for so many people, from the cashiers at her favorite stores to the employees at Frenchman's Creek to her own friends and family. Every single person, upon speaking to her, immediately felt loved and dignified. Around a year ago, the plans for our incredible family trip to Italy for Grandma and Grandpa's 60th anniversary were starting to materialize. After seeing the dates of the trip, though, I soon realized that it was going to conflict with my own personal summer opportunities. Despite looking into a bunch of alternative summer options, I soon realized that something had to give. Either I would miss much of the trip or have to leave a week early from my summer program. While I was debating what path to take, I had a pivotal conversation with my mom. Josh, she told me, when your grandparents are no longer here, you will either look back and deeply regret not spending this precious time with them on an incredible trip like this, or you will reminisce about the incredible time spent together and the memories formed along the way. After hearing this, I knew what the right decision was. So this past August, we spent an incredible week or so together in Italy. We traveled to Venice, Rome, Florence, Siena, and more, all of which had their own version of the kosher baguette restaurant, a personal favorite of Grandpa's. But looking back, the incredible canals of Venice, architecture of Florence, and culture of Siena pales in comparison to the invaluable time I spent with Grandma, the meals, conversations, and simply being in her presence. This truly was an unforgettable trip. And of course, as she always is, Mommy was right. I will always look back on this trip and reminisce about these incredible final moments together with Grandma. Grandma, there's so much I will miss about you. I'll miss sitting next to you at meals when you tell stories about your youth in Brooklyn and your friends from high school who went on to become famous singers, lounging with you on the couch as you eat your unlimited supply of coffee ice cream, and going to Mets games with you. Even more than that, I will miss your unconditional love for me. When you call me pussycat or sweetheart, I will miss coming to Frenchman's Creek, where you waited for me on the couch each and every time I came. But now the house just feels empty, and your spot on the couch seems unoccupied. Even simple activities like going out to the club or restaurants won't be the same without you there. It's not how things have been, nor how they ought to be. The only thing preventing our family from despair is the incredible legacy you have left. You had a spectacular husband with whom you spent a remarkable 64 years with, who loved and cared for you more than I knew was possible, and who will continue to live by the kind and thoughtful ways that you yourself lived by. Mommy, too, will do her best to live by your principles. She always said she hopes that people one day speak of her in the way that they speak of you, Grandma. I can personally attest that she's living up to these extremely high expectations, but only because of the incredible impact you've had. However, the task to carry on your legacy is most incumbent upon your 7 grandchildren, Aliza, Yael, Danielle, Jacob, Alana, Julia, and myself, along with your 2 great-grandchildren, Gwendolyn and Leland. You loved us so much, ensuring that we grew up to become real gentlemen and ladies, and always had that pleasant countenance. The onus is therefore upon us to greet people with a smile, remain calm and composed in moments of tension, and unconditionally love those who need it. So yes, Grandma, things simply won't be the same without you, and we will all miss you dearly. But I'm just so proud to call myself your grandson. Someone who not only has made some incredible memories with you, but someone who will always be with you as I do my best to perpetuate the values that you live by. Thank you.
I'll now hear from Julia Sobel for NER's Lara and Tim's daughter.
Hello, my name is Julia, and this is Alana, my sister, and we're Bobby's grandchildren. All right. It's hard to put into words the immense impact Grandma has had on us. She is the backbone and heart of our entire family. She always gave us the biggest hugs, the best kisses, and always greeted us with a warm smile. Grandma always knew how we were feeling just by looking at us. She had a way of making you feel like the most special person in the room with just her smile. She had a fiery personality and an infectious laugh that we just loved to be around. Grandma is the person who taught us all about how to be great people in this world, how to be a woman in this world. She taught us the importance of hard work, the importance of independence, how to put together the perfect outfit for every occasion, and how to take care of ourselves, how to be safe, and so many more life lessons that we will hold close to us. She used to tell me that your education is one of the most important things in life, that it's something that is truly yours and that nobody can ever take that away from you. There is no one that you would want to support you more or have more in your corner than Grandma. If you had her behind you, then absolutely anything was possible. We will miss all of the traditions and memories that we had with her. Getting mani-pedis, drinking Starbucks, trying on outfits, going Black Friday shopping. Some of our favorite memories with Grandma are the ones that she took the time and love to create. Grandma was the first person to introduce us to nail polish. She would have us sit at the kitchen table, and she used to paint our nails red.
Memories like these are what I will always hold close in my heart. Waking up to seeing Grandma sitting at the table, sipping her coffee and reading her morning paper, or falling asleep on the couch with her book is something that I never knew that I would miss so much. Like my cousin Josh said, the house and world just kind of feels empty without her. Sorry. She was the best and most kind grandma ever. And she was the best and most loving person ever, and I think every single person here can attest to that. We will miss every single thing about her, and we will love her always and always hold her close in our hearts. Thank you.
I call upon Danielle Shapiro to share some memories.
No matter how much time I put into choosing an outfit, doing my makeup, or pairing my accessories, Grandma Bobbi was always dressed better. And rarely was it a close call. My name is Danielle Shapiro, and I was blessed with 22 wonderful years with my beautiful grandmother. Today, I want to tell you briefly about who my grandmother was and who I am because of her. My grandmother allegedly retired from working as a teacher when I was 3 months old. I say allegedly because I partially dispute that chronology. I think my grandmother never fully retired from teaching. I think her teaching just took on a different form when she transitioned from a reading specialist to the role of full-time grandmother. Whether it be in how to view the world or how to treat people, Grandma Bobbi was the perfect role model and teacher for me, my siblings, and my cousins. Everyone knew Grandma Bobbi for her shopping prowess, and yes, she had a gift, but my many shopping trips with my grandmother taught me more than just how to pair shirts and skirts together. These trips showed me how to treat and inspire people, even when you're in your area of expertise. When my grandma and I would shop together, we'd go through all the racks of Bloomingdale's, gathering potential cute items for me to try on. While my grandma undoubtedly had the best style, she always respected and celebrated mine or my cousin's unique style at the time. She was happy to give her opinions, but she never let her eye of fashion get in the way of who she was as a person, kind and appreciative of others. When I look back at some of the horrendous outfit pairings I insisted on getting because they were the trend of the month, I think back on how Grandma approached the fashion disasters. She said, "I wouldn't buy them for myself, but if you really like it and you think you'll wear it a lot, let's do it, because it's important." She never asserted her dominance in the shopping domain, even though she surely could have. Instead, she celebrated mine and my cousin's creativity and individuality when it came to our style. And this extended beyond just shopping. While my grandmother was a principled woman on anything from politics to driving directions, she never let her views be mistaken for disrespect to those with whom she differed. From our shopping trips together, she taught me that being principled or passionate about something never needs to come at the expense of treating others with kindness or respect. My grandma also taught me how to view the world as one filled with possibility and with love. One year at the Passover Seder, Grandma Bobbi was reading the opening passage about God taking the Israelites out of Egypt. Instead of simply reading the English translation, as we all had done for many, many years, my grandmother took advantage of the passage she was assigned to and amended the language to give it a bit of a 21st century feminist flair, shall we say. Rather than, quote, "if the Holy One had not taken our fathers out of Egypt," end quote, my grandmother said, accompanied by a classic Grandma Bobbi grin, "if the Holy One had not taken our fathers and mothers out of Egypt," giving plenty of emphasis to the female inclusion within the Exodus story. Apart from bringing some wit and politics into the Passover plot and Seder, I think my grandma was trying to tell me and my cousins that we could accomplish anything we set our mind to, that we just needed to be a little creative and think outside the box, and that if we were, the world was our oyster and she our cheerleader. Whenever I would visit with my grandparents, I loved sitting with my grandma in the mornings as she read the newspaper and I did work on my computer or read a book. But I was never able to get much done because without fail, within a minute or two, my grandma's phone would start buzzing with text after text after text from her gal pals. And I knew better than to suggest that she turn off her phone or put it on silent. And for my grandma, talking to and spending time with the people she loved was exactly what life was about. So turning off the phone was completely out of the question. She loved exchanging the Shabbat Shaloms with her gal pals, and she rejoiced when any of her friends would call to say hello. Whenever I would call her from school, I could hear in her voice that she was grinning ear to ear on the other end, just so happy to be talking to me and hearing about the boringest details of my day. And of course, there's her relationship with my grandfather, which I think deserves a special mention. My grandparents had 60 beautiful years of marriage together, and they loved each other as much on the very last days as they did at the very beginning. For me and my cousins, now only beginning to enter that stage of our lives, having that as a role model for how to care for one another is something I will truly think about for the rest of my life. So yes, I dispute that chronology and that my grandma retired from teaching. Because for 22 years, Grandma Bobbi was my teacher, and she taught me how the world is a place of love and warmth. If I ever doubt that fact, I'll just picture Grandma Bobbi's beautiful smile, and I know I'll be reminded.
We're going to ask Bobby's brother, Dick, to say a few words.
First, I want to thank Alex and Lauren for all that you've done. You moved heaven and earth on behalf of Bobbi. Bobbi and I grew up in Far Rockaway, New York, where we went to PS 39 and Far Rockaway High School, the same high school as our dad, our birth mom, Ruth, two of our aunts, and two of our uncles. Bobbi excelled in just about everything that came her way. She had a near photographic memory. She skipped a grade in elementary school. I never saw her report cards, but what I did see were the smiles on my parents' faces. I can remember Bobbi sitting at my side at home, patiently tutoring me on subjects she had easily mastered a couple of years earlier. Little wonder that she would go on to become a special needs teacher. Far Rockaway High School prided itself on being the only high school in the U.S. to have produced 3 Nobel laureates. But for my money, Bobbi was among its best and brightest. Throughout my life, whenever I faced a challenge, I knew I could turn to my sister for sound advice. If I faced a medical scare that sent me into a spiral of negative thinking, Bobbi would halt me with a stern, "Don't go there." When I was laid off from a publishing job at age 60 and fretting over mortgage payments, Bobbi's advice was to widen my scope, to throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. I listened to her and landed a job that got me to the finish line 10 years later. I love Bobbi for all that she taught me, for the wisdom she imparted, for the humor with which she dispensed it, and for her unconditional love. She led an incredible life, as she would often say to me, "Not bad for a girl from Rockaway."
Now we're going to hear from Lauren, Bobby's daughter and my wife.
Mom died on Thanksgiving. And while you might think that this might forever darken that day for my family and make us sad, I'm going to try to think of it differently. On a day dedicated to family gatherings and gratitude, when we pause our routines to appreciate the good things in our life and count our blessings, I will focus on how grateful I am that I was born my mother's daughter. You see, being Bobbi Sobel's daughter is one of the greatest privileges of my life, and of course, has made me who I am. It's also a bit like being the daughter of a celebrity, at least among her legions of fans, and there are many. You see, my mom was known. She was recognized. She was remembered. Everywhere she went, and everyone she met, from lifelong friends from high school, college, her colleagues from decades of teaching, reading at the Charles Campaign School, to the golf courses and card rooms of Middle Bay, Seawain, Frenchman's Creek, and from the sole proprietor boutiques she frequented to the department stores like Saks, people always knew who my mother was. They knew Bobbi, and they remember her. Because she was beautiful, because she was elegant, and because she had a genuine smile that reached you, and it brightened your day, made you feel special. And because she spoke to every person with genuine interest, kindness, and respect, my mother was a lady. How many times have I heard, "You're Bobbi Sobel's daughter?" And then often people will clasp my hands, look me in the eye, and say ever so earnestly, "I just love your mom. I mean, I really love her. I'm one of her closest friends." I heard this time and time again, all around our community as I grew up, from those parents who ran carpools with her, people who volunteered at the school with her, in the community, my friends' parents, and my sister's friends, and their parents, and I still hear it wherever I go, wherever people have met my mom. She makes an impression, forges a bond, somehow makes a personal connection, even with the briefest of encounters. It's rare, and it's genuine, and it makes you feel really special. A family member recently said to me, "Your mom had a generosity of spirit, even during very tough times, which made her stand out and endeared her to so many people." As a young girl, I always thought that I had the prettiest mom and the youngest mom. Running carpools, Mom never left the house disheveled, no matter how late she was running or how late we were. She was always fully dressed, put together, as you can all imagine, as she was throughout my life. Mom had style, even in the 1970s and 80s, which is saying a lot. She had a timeless elegance. But for her, it was effortless, and she just had a sense of fashion and a flair, a natural flair for elegance. She'd hate the fact that I'm wearing flats today. Of course, Mom didn't just look good. She was also smart and successful. Together with my father, Mom gave my sister Lara and me a wonderful home to grow up in. My parents prioritized us, were involved in our education, both Jewish and secular, and I owe so much of who I am Jewishly to my mother's belief that Judaism and Zionism were core beliefs and the foundation for life. Most importantly, Mom made my sister and me feel safe, secure, loved, and even during rough adolescent years, that's saying a lot. And my mom was especially good at listening, then and now. She really listened and heard people. And she had an uncanny ability to know when to just listen and when to offer a few choice words of comfort, guidance, solace when needed. We had our share of a few sharp exchanges back in the day, and especially when I was a teenager. I sometimes showed her little less than the proper amount of respect, and for that I ask Mechila. But as I matured, my mother became my confidant, my role model, my greatest champion, and the person to whom I always would turn for wisdom and advice. My mother's sweet and thoughtful disposition, endless patience, and understanding might not seem that extraordinary, but it really was. It's extraordinary because my mother knew real loss and pain as a very young child, having lost her own beloved mother, Ruth, when she was just 9 years old. She and her dear brother, Dick, navigated these heartaches and challenges together during those early years and created a sibling bond that each has cherished throughout their adult lives. I know he grieves with us today at the loss of a much-loved sister. Though Mom grew up without her own mother and in the house of another, she nevertheless seemed to have retained the very warmth and sweetness that her own mother was so well known for. And while this kind of loss and difficulty growing up might turn others bitter, more brittle, less patient, less sweet, it only made my mother stronger, more resilient, and more empathetic to those who are also suffering. The trajectory of Mom's early life changed when she met my father as a young girl of 17 in her freshman year at Russell Sage College in Troy, New York. They have spent the last 64 years together, 60 of them married happily, facing everything in life as a team. Their marriage stands as the absolute gold standard for me and for my children. They built a life together, both working incredibly hard in their careers to provide my sister and me with endless opportunities to further our education, pursue our goals, and find success. Throughout it all, I always remember them making time for each other, going out every Saturday night with friends, leaving us with a babysitter, going out alone together, spending a week on vacation each year without kids, and supporting each other in the pursuit of their own goals. When I was in lower school, I remember my dad encouraged my mom to return to graduate school and resume teaching, even committing to a grinding, grueling commute to Bergen County from the South Shore of Long Island, which, if you know what that is like today, is almost undoable. Before it was a thing, my dad was encouraging my mother to pursue her dreams. My dad didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk or drove it to make sure Mom was successful and happy in her career. Their love story has endured and flourished for years as they settled into life without children at home, and where they devoted their time to the common interests that they shared: golf, friends, sharing book recommendations, theater, arts, interesting ideas. My mom treasured her life with my father, and as he's told me so many times over the last months, she often remarked to him, "How did we get so lucky?" About 22 years ago, Mom faced a life-threatening health scare together. Mom and Dad faced a life-threatening health scare together when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. As you might expect, my dad launched into action, served as her chief advocate, went to all her doctor visits, made sure her treatment was moving according to plan, and helped her every step of the way. As he was so often, he served as her knight in shining armor, willing to slay dragons for her and to do whatever it took to protect her and keep her safe. Throughout her treatment, Mom was courageous and insisted on keeping her life as normal as possible. She saw her friends, she played a little golf, made a few efforts to live her life, and Dad stood by her side, encouraging her. Together, they survived cancer. It's been decades now, but at the birth of each grandchild since, at each celebration and each family milestone, each family trip, each shopping expedition with the grandchildren, each and every conversation that she and I have shared, I have given thanks to Hashem for this time with my mother. I never took I took nothing for granted, and neither did she. My parents have seemingly lived a charmed life for the last several decades. Their love and their relationship strengthening with each year, each cherished experience together, and even facing the most devastating of challenges together when they lost my beloved sister Lara so suddenly and so brutally only 8 years ago. They consoled each other, fought together for justice, found ways to remember and honor my sister's life, and together have provided my sister's children, Alana and Julia, with a rock-solid foundation of comfort, love, and support throughout the last several years. And here I must share with you all the powerful devotion that to each other was the enduring story of these last few months. With my mom falling catastrophically ill, my father has been by her side throughout, serving as her steadfast champion, her mover of mountains, her dragon slayer, her advocate in every forum with every doctor, nurse, therapist, anyone who walked past her room who might help her. He has made sure that each of these professionals, medical professionals, saw the person that she was, knew what she meant to her family, and that she was not just a sick woman in a bed. He did this so that my mother received every possible chance, every medication, procedure, and opportunity to recover. He has suffered along with her each of the days of the last few months and has been inconsolable recently with his inability to move the remaining mountains in her way. Having done so all their life together, having removed the speed bumps, smoothed the way, cleared the path, he was devastated not to be able to ease her suffering, make her better. Dad, I've said this to you for nearly every day for the last few months. Nobody could have asked for a better, more devoted, loving advocate and caregiver. You showered Mom with love at her bedside and rained down every possible medical solution until there was none left. Mom loved you for all you did, and so do I. She's at peace now, and I hope your mind is eased by knowing that you have honored her in every possible way. No human being, no wife could ask for more from a husband. My mother had two very different daughters, different from each other and different from her. But she always had enough love and just the right thing to say to both of us. About 10 years ago on Thanksgiving weekend, we were all together, and I suggested that the three of us, Mom, Lara, and me, take a trip together to London. My sister was all in right away. And she said to my mom, trying to convince her, let's do it, let's go, let's make some memories. Mom agreed because Lara was in. And that summer, the three of us spent several days in London together. With both of them gone now, I am so grateful we had that chance to take a girls' trip and make memories. I cherish that time together even more now. I think I speak for my sister when I say that two girls could not have been more fortunate to be blessed to have Bobbi Sobel as their mother. Yet it was in her role as a grandmother that became my mother's crowning achievement and joy. Mom was delighted when I married Mark, and Eliza and Yael became part of our family. At last, she was able to lavish all of her grandma love on two adorable little girls. She was a natural, and they responded, recognizing immediately that here was a new bonus grandma with lots of love to give, and a great shopper to boot. And this also gave her the gift of becoming a great grandmother in the last 3 years to Gwenny and Leland, a joy she got to live and experience. She was down the hall waiting at the hospital when my daughter Danielle was born and was thrilled with the birth of each of my sons, Josh and Jacob. She traveled to Vermont with the arrival of Lara's girls, Julia and Alana, and was there for every milestone, every important occasion. She and my dad were devoted grandparents and went to Herculean efforts to bring the cousins together for memorable vacations and summer trips to New York City or Long Island. Camp Grandma became a tradition, and there are many beautiful memories and photos to savor and cherish for a lifetime. In recent years, as the grandchildren grew, she took pride in all of their accomplishments. I'm sure she's had her share of grandma bragging to many of you, but mostly Mom couldn't get enough information about what each of the kids was up to. Every conversation was about that. She loved spending time with them as they've grown into adults, and she even made a trek to a few college campuses in recent years to visit. Time with her grandchildren was Mom's special joy. In yesterday's Torah portion, Parshat Vayetze, we read about the sons of Jacob. In yesterday's, for each son's name, the Torah explains the etymology. One of Jacob's sons is named Asher, and the reason for the name is that Leah said, "Happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy." This sentiment, happiness through one's children, was a guiding principle of my mother's life. Her greatest joy was seeing the achievements of her children and later her grandchildren. To all of my mother's lifelong friends, colleagues, golf partners, card partners, and her many gal pals, I'm going to say something that you already know. Mom was the most loyal, true friend you could ever want. If she befriended you, she kept you for life. She has a hard time getting rid of things, which is what my father says is the reason he's still around. She was the first to call, send a card, send a note, send a baby gift or a wedding gift, let you know she loved you or was just thinking of you. She always did the right thing, took the high road, offered to listen, offered you support. I know how much you all loved her. And we shared all of your messages of love, support, and friendship over the last several weeks. She smiled, she appreciated them, she nodded, and she acknowledged them, and she loved you all too. My mom was a beloved sister and sister-in-law. Though her brother Dick lived across the country, he was always in Mom's heart and on her mind. She loved him unreservedly, and I know his heart has broken time and time again in the last few weeks when I've spoken to him and had to tell him that Mom's recovery is not going as we had hoped. My father's siblings, my Aunt Anita and Uncle Peter, have known my mother since they themselves were children and teenagers. She was the beautiful older sister that my father brought home from college. They loved her then and for the rest of her life. My mother's life wasn't always easy, though she really did make it look as though it was. She didn't complain. She didn't think there was much point in that. She just got on with things and moved forward. She was dealt more than her share of blows, but she got back up and persevered. She showed us this strength and resilience in the last few months. Every nurse, aide, doctor, and therapist told us she was a fighter. She clung to life, clawed her way back so many times in the last few months. Her nurse on Thursday even said to us that big men 2 and 3 times her size have not shown as much fight as she had when faced with similar challenges. That's no surprise to us. That's Mom. So for the last several minutes, I've been sharing this all with you. But now I want to speak directly to my mother, as I will for the rest of my life. Mom, thank you. Thank you for giving me life and for all the sacrifices, big and small, that you made throughout your life to make mine better. Thank you for sharing your positive outlook, for teaching me that no matter what happens, just continue try and stay positive. Take one day at a time. Don't go there. And that things will get better and that I will be okay. Thank you for being a devoted, loving, and patient wife, and for setting the bar high about choosing a partner for life, and for showing us all how to make a marriage work for a lifetime. Thank you for being the best mother to me and to Lara, to our husbands, and for being there in every way throughout our lives and even beyond. Everything I am as a mother and hope to be, I learned from you. Thank you for being a grandmother with so much love that it is forever seared in the hearts of your grandchildren. You have given them memories and love to last their lifetime, and it will. You will be remembered by them and by their children. They are your legacy, and oh, what a beautiful legacy it is. Thank you for being a steadfast and sweet sister to your brother, who has always had you in his corner, and for being a sister-in-law who is really more of a sister and role model to my father's siblings. Thank you for showing me and your friends what true friendship is, what loyalty looks like, and about love and how you get it and how you give it to friends who are like family and even to people you only know a little. Thank you for patiently teaching countless children to read, to learn, to excel. Your impact and your work have carried so many people forward to live successful lives. Thank you for teaching me about living life with dignity and grace, kindness and love, even at life's most painful and difficult moments. Especially these last few months, your beautiful essence, your neshama, always shine through. Even from a hospital bed, with all the limitations you had, you somehow won over everyone who you encountered with your smile and with your goodness. They all saw who you were, a magnificent person, inside and out, who we all love so much. We are all moved by the example you set. You fought valiantly, pushed hard to regain your health, your voice, and your life. But you needn't fight anymore, Mommy. You don't need to push. Be at peace and know that your family and I will love you for the rest of our lives. I will always be proud, and every day, Thanksgiving and every day after, to be Bobbi Sobel's daughter.
We're going to say the Kel Male now, if everyone could please stand.
El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamontzei Menucha Nechona Al Kanfei Ashchina, B'Ma'alo Kadoshim V'Torim, Kezohar Rakia Masirim, and Nishmat Brundle Rachel Bat Alexander, Shalcha Olama, Ba'avor Shanachnu Mitpalim Be'aras Karan Nishmata, Bigan Eden Te Menuchata, Lachin Balarachamim Yastira Beseter Kanafav Olamim, V'yitzror Bitzror HaChaim and Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachlata, V'tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'nomar Amen.
Now we're going, is Gina here to give instructions? Gina, we're ready. We're going to be going to the cemeteries right here.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude the chapel portion of the service. We're going to head out to the graveside. You can either take your cars, walk, or we do have golf carts available to take you to and from. Adele and I will get the casket out first. I'm going to ask the immediate family to follow directly behind it, and everybody else can kindly follow behind them. Thank you. I